With this episode of the No Varsity Show, this is episode number 6 here. We have a very special guest, Mr. Matt Light. He's a graduate of Greenville High School, along with the three of us. He is also a graduate of Purdue University, where he played football. He then spent 10 years with the New England Patriots. He was a first-team All-Pro in 2007, won the Super Bowl 3 times, and was also selected to the Pro Bowl 3 times as well. So, Matt, welcome. Thank you for coming on, and we're glad you're here.
Well, always good to share some time with some fellow Greenville natives, I guess we can call ourselves, right? All right.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, Greenvilleites. I was trying to make that transition. I failed miserably, but yeah, good to be on and good to speak with y'all.
Yeah, what an intro, too. You had a lot on that list. Did we miss anything that we should have said about you?
No, just other than, not good hygiene habits, clearly. You can tell that by just looking at me. And I did spend 11 seasons with the Pats. I only making that correction because the last one was the best one, so I want to highlight that one. Maybe not the best one. We didn't win the Super Bowl, but we had a lot of fun that season.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, you got it all right, man.
Yeah, I think I meant to say 10 years. Yeah, so 11 seasons, 10 years. So, yeah, kind of with that, we'll get right into it. How would you reflect on your playing days, from Greenville all the way up to that last season with the Patriots? What's your biggest takeaways from your playing days?
I think the biggest thing for me was that I enjoyed the game. At every level. I think when you first start out playing any sport, you want to be around, your friends and, you want the challenge of competing and, it's fun to think back on your high school career, regardless of the sport, because, there's just so many bonds made and so many firsts and so many things that you learn along the way and, how to respect the coach, how to, work well with others or not work very well with others, how to overcome adversity. There's so many different life lessons. And then you go to the college level and you realize like, wow, I'm not very good. And these guys or gals are really good at what they do. And so then you get pushed to kind of get outside your comfort zone. And then if you're fortunate enough, and I was, extremely fortunate to get an opportunity to play in the National Football League, you start to figure out, what life's all about and, what it means to show up on time and hold yourself accountable and push yourself beyond, what you're even comfortable with. And you get to see, how far you can truly go. So for me, from start to finish, look, I played football because I didn't go to jail when I hit people. I thought that was pretty cool. It was a great way for me to, stay outside. I was a kid that lived in the outdoors and, so for me, football wasn't something that I grew up thinking, hey, one day I want to go to college and play football, or one day I want to be in a National Football League. I had never seen a game in my life until I played both at the collegiate level and, professionally. So I truly did it because I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the locker room. I enjoyed the people that I met. I enjoyed the challenges that it presented. And along the way, we were able to win some games.
Yeah, I think highlighting, the experience with the relationships and, teammates and all that is important. I'm being a former athlete myself, and Simeon and Des as well. That's always one of the most important things. And then winning, if you're successful, that's just, like a tag along. Like it comes naturally. So yeah, that's awesome. But one thing we do want to talk about, off the bat as well is you did have some very high-level teammates throughout your playing careers. Just to highlight a few: Drew Brees at Purdue, Tom Brady with the Pats, Rob Gronkowski, several others. what, if anything, I guess, what'd you learn from them? And, how does playing with some of the greatest players of all time impact a team and your experience personally?
I think everybody that I played with in one way or another kind of pushed me, and I was fortunate. I mean, even at the collegiate level, my roommate was the first ever John Mackey Award winner for the greatest tight end in the nation. His name was Tim Stratton. He had a lot of balls thrown his way from that guy that was too short to play the position, but maybe would be a decent quarterback in the National Football League, right? So, and then, so that experience in college, meeting a whole bunch of people from around the country that, maybe you didn't share the same background with. They didn't grow up in a hometown that had Annie Oakley. There wasn't maybe things on paper that would seem like you'd be good friends, but competition is an amazing thing, because unlike what the world's trying to teach kids today, that, you shouldn't try to win. You shouldn't try to compete. Somebody winning and somebody else losing doesn't make sense. No, competition is what this country was built on, and competition is where a lot of people find themselves. You're kind of lost. You don't know if you have it, or sometimes, some of us think we have all the answers and we've got it all figured out. But then I think the majority of people, you're trying to prove it to yourself day in and day out, and competition can really help do that. So, the people that I played with, they were some of the most competitive people on earth. And I would take Drew Brees and Tom Brady and put them both as equals when it comes to everything that they did. They were trying to win, or they were trying to get better, or they were trying to best the person next to them. It could be as simple as throwing a piece of paper in a trash, barrel, right? Like, they want to do it better than the people in the room next to them. And so when you're in an environment like that, where not only are all the people that you're around highly competitive, but they're also being driven by really good coaches who demand the best, demand that you show up on time, that you stay late, that you have the answers, that you continue to put in the work. And if you don't, there's going to be somebody right behind you that's more than willing to take your place, right? That's when you find out, who you can really trust. And that's where integrity comes in, right? The people that don't just say they're going to do something, they show up and they make it happen day in and day out. That's what competition does. And when you're around some of the best in the world, they have copious amounts of competition just streaming, day in and day out. So, that's what I'm really grateful for, not just playing with guys that had great integrity, that worked their tail off, that showed up every day and tried to do it better, this hour than they did last hour. But, the fact that it pushed me to become a better player and a better person.
Yeah, well said.
Absolutely.
Something I was curious about, when you were going through that transition from playing at Greenville to going to Purdue, do you think leaving high school you felt like, we weren't around during this time, we were small children, but do you feel like it was kind of a sure thing that this guy's going to the league, or did you really have to prove yourself while you were playing at Purdue?
I don't think anything was a sure thing. I know I sure as heck. I mean, as my coaches once noted, I didn't know if the ball was pumped or stuffed. I didn't have a clue as to what I was doing. I joke about this all the time with the kids we work with through our foundation, but there's it was a different reality for me back in the day. Right now, you have XOs, you have all these different ways that people can share information and put stuff out about a potential player. I mean, if you're a high school athlete today, you've got, endless amounts of ways that you can impress the scouts or, the coaching staff or whoever it may be. Back in the day, it wasn't the case. And I always found it funny that, if you look at the draft, the NFL draft, right, when I came out, if you would look at a write-up on a on another offensive lineman, right? Like during my draft, say it was like a guy like Steve Hutchinson, who was a high round pick, guy out of Michigan, went on to have a heck of a career. There would be things said about Steve Hutchinson in the write up that said, he's got really, really good short space quickness, explosive lower body, really can, move well. He's got great, footwork and, really good punch and stab, great upper body, can control the blocker. A lot of things that they could say, right? For me, none of that applied. What they said for me was he's highly coachable. Not strong, not quick, just highly coachable. So, my career was different. Yeah, I didn't grow up, I didn't grow up watching football. Nobody in my family played. My buddies and I never talked about it. I had no idea that Purdue was in the Big Ten. When I was at Purdue, I had no idea that, I could potentially go in the draft. Never saw a draft until I was in one. I was truly playing the game because I loved playing the game. I loved to compete. And so for me, maybe some of that ignorance was bliss. Maybe some of it, kept me from focusing on anything other than what was right in front of me and taking care of, business that was most important. So, I kind of lucked into it, so to speak.
Yeah, I think it may not be entirely true, but a lot of that would be growing up, pre-internet, pre-social media. Do you feel as if, had you redone it this year, for example, or if you were a guy going in the draft this year, how do you think your experience would be different? Would it be different at all? With the internet, social media, etc.
Yeah, I think it'd be a dramatically different. We have too much information now, right? And not enough knowledge, right? There's a difference between information, hearing something and then having knowledge on a subject. And, you've got a lot of people that, attend YouTube University or they see things and then they think that they have acquired, some skill set when in reality, look, I think it's safe to say that once you've actually, put time in and you've earned the right to say that you've done something, it's only because you put the time in. You've failed, you've gotten back up, you've worked through it. Look, I grew up at a time where being in the outdoors and hunting and fishing and, living a fairly simple life was the only thing I cared about, and I'm not going to tell you that it's any different today. I've never logged onto a social media platform. I never will. I don't see the need to. I've got enough chaos in my world without, a whole bunch of people I don't know. And, I think that I don't know if that's unique, but I think that it's just the way I've always done it. And I think kids today, they've got a lot of things that they're trying to keep up with, of which probably maybe only half or a third of them are worth their time and effort. I think you could pare a lot of that stuff down and you could, turn away from a lot of what we call distractions and in the social media realm, I mean, those are daily, right? I mean, we're all kind of glued to our devices and I'm not sure that those are the beneficial things in our lives.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, it's definitely a fair point because just how rapid things kind of onset with social media, there was never really a point where it was going to be a totally good thing, because when something impacts a society like that, it's hard telling what's going to happen. So, I really respect not you especially, and I know a lot of other, like you said, it's not necessarily unique, but it is interesting when people of your stature or whoever are not on social media at all because their experience in life, led them to that and continues to lead them in that direction. And they are typically much more peaceful and at heart. And you definitely seem that way as well. So we have a few kind of like Greenville specific questions we want to ask you.
Maid rights.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
No, that's literally the first one.
What's your go-to maid right
So
I want it all. I want everything on it. Don't hold the onion. Don't pull back anything. And when I'm really feeling froggy, I'm going with the Big Jim. Right? Am I?
Yeah.
Yep.
Jim.
Yeah.
Big Jim.
I want that slice of ham. I want that slice of ham. I don't know why it seemed wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah. You got to have a maid right.
Do you get a milkshake?
I do. I do a chocolate peanut butter or a strawberry. I'm torn on both of them. And I do like to throw a little bit of chips into my maid right.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Do you give it a little like press down, little smash on top of the chips?
Got to press it down.
Have to.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. You got to manage your maid right.
You do.
Right.
There's really some work you have to put into it before consuming it. But I feel like the smash and the chips is mandatory.
Yep. So next, I guess this one's not technically Greenville specific, but I know after high school football games, for us, our go-to spot was typically Taco Bell. So after a football game in high school, where did you usually end up, eating that midnight snack?
I think we were more of a Wendy's crew.
Okay.
And then we typically had a few houses that we would go hang at where, we had some pretty good moms that knew how to work the kitchen, and there was always, a good amount of food that we could raid.
Sweet. That's actually pretty relevant to the next question as well. So how frequently have you had Sue Light's cooking?
Wow. I'm going to tell you, every chance I get, she is the wizard in the kitchen. And the best part is, it's not like, sometimes people know how to grill. Other people know how to make like the ultimate sides, or maybe you're a dessert queen.
Right.
Not Sue.
She
owns it.
Jack of all trades. Yeah.
She's too
good.
She is quite accomplished. Yes. And you can't say no to it. Like your weapons are useless against it. You're going to eat it.
Yep.
Because it's that good.
Absolutely. Do you have a go-to Sue Light dish?
Oh man. Well, first of all, every dessert I've ever had that she makes is unbelievable.
Oh yeah.
And then I'd say this much, that some of it's rubbed off because Micah can make a mean brisket. And I would like to tell you that it's all him, but I feel like it's got to be Sue.
Oh, got to be Sue.
I mean, I've been telling him that I love his brisket and I make it all about him because I want to pump him up. Sure. I don't want to not be in the brisket, family tree. But I'm going to say it's Sue.
Oh, yes. There's definitely some Sue influence there for sure. So last one we got here. What's a day at the Great Dark County Fair like for you? What's your stops there?
It has been a long time. And I think about the fair quite a bit when we hit that August time frame. Back in the day, I would hit every vendor that created a snack or an entree or a meal that was fried. I mean, literally the worst thing you could ever do to yourself. Funnel cakes, elephant ears, corn dogs that are like triple fried. What was the one that I knew that I was completely just wrong in eating? It was like an Oreo.
Oreos? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like a deep fried Oreo.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got to try to win a cane every time.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know why. Spend like $180 to win like a piece of like balsa wood that has like a top on it.
Do you go for the thick canes up top? Like try to ring the ones that are hanging upside down? Got to.
Yeah, I want the hook. I want the solid, like legit. I never get one.
Right.
I don't think I've ever gotten one. And then I don't even know if they have it anymore. But back in the day, you had the little like fake machine gun that shot the BBs, and you're trying to shoot the star
They still have
out of the
that.
card.
Oh yeah,
They still have
yep,
that.
yep. That's right down
Yeah.
from the canes usually. Yep.
I don't think they give you.
Oh yeah,
enough
you got
BBs
to do that.
finish. I've never cut out the star perfectly.
I've done it. I may have cheated. I may have brought extra BB. No.
What's the last fair you say you've attended, or if you don't know, how roughly?
Woo. Wow. I know that I've taken my kids. I would say it's probably been 7 or 8 years ago. So it's been a while.
It's probably rough for someone like you to go to the fair because people notice you and you're getting stopped all the time, I'm sure. Have you experienced that in Greenville ever?
Maybe every now and then, but I think when you go to the fair, that's a given no matter who you are, right? Like you
True.
see every single person
True.
in your town. Like you're trying to go from point A to point B, but you're taking 35 stops along the way,
right.
So yeah, I would say that, there's definitely some times where, it gets a little chatty, but overall, I'm no different than anybody else. I don't approach things any differently. And, I've never really had an issue with hanging out and answering questions or talking to folks. And, people are very respectful. I think it's kind of how you carry yourself, right? Like if you act as if, you're better than someone else, then, people may look at you differently and may, approach you differently. But I think if you, act like you're just a normal human being, right? And treat people with respect, they do the same in kind for the most part.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's if you. Yeah, that makes total sense. We want to touch on the Light Foundation as well. You talked about it briefly a little bit earlier. So me myself, I don't know about Simeon or Des. I remember always going to the football camp as a kid. You made several appearances throughout the years. You do other things like the turkey hunt in the community. What's the drive behind the Light Foundation? What made you start it? And what also keeps it going for you as well?
Well, initially there was just a sense of, hey, I've been, I get drafted and I'm entering this foreign world and it has a lot that goes with it. And part of that is just this sense of, I've been given a heck of an opportunity. What are you going to do with it now? And, so started to talk to my family and some friends and thought, hey, look, we've got a platform now and coming off the 01 Super Bowl and the ability to raise money and then direct that to things that I felt strongly about and our board felt strongly about seemed like the right thing to do. And I come from a family of educators. My mom taught music for 35 years. My, father's a natural born educator, has taught, music and engineering and things of that nature. So I think it was kind of an easy decision to take, some of these resources and some of the things that have happened in my life that were positive and pass them forward. And we didn't know what we were doing in the early years. We just knew that we wanted to make an impact and we wanted to, focus on kids and young adults. And, from there, it blossomed into, our leadership camps and the Light Foundation Leadership Academy. And then eventually, the land that we have that is now Chynoweth Trails. And it's just been a blessing. We've been able to add, some incredible people to our staff. We've got a phenomenal staff of people that really have a heart for kids and go out of their way to, make things happen. And we've done it all through funds that we've raised through different events that we host. And, really, we don't rely at all on grants and things of that nature. It comes down to, okay, how can we tell our story? How can we raise the money? And then what's the most that we can do with the funds that we've raised? And, I think that's forced us to be very disciplined. It's forced us to do things and think outside the box and get creative. But at the end of the day, I love passing on the lessons and the things that I've learned from people that were there in my life when I grew up, and a lot of the people right there in Darke County, that helped shape me as a youngster, who probably more than once or twice had to kick me in the tail a few times to get me to straighten up or to, do the things that I should be doing when I maybe wasn't, and people that held me accountable. And, those are the people that I get to now introduce to kids from around the country that come into a variety of different programs that we have, whether it's, the Light Project, which is working with first graders, the football camps, the turkey hunts, the youth hunts, the, leadership camps that we run. I mean, all of these things, I get to act like a kid, which is great. And I get to hang around with a whole bunch of young people that, I can share, some of these life lessons with. And it's been a real blessing for me, for my family, my wife, my kids. We all get to come back to Greenville every summer. We do New England like completely the opposite from most people. Most people survive the winter and then they live for the summer. We survive the winter to leave and go to a basically landlocked, mosquito infested, area of the country. But we love it. There's nothing like coming home, no matter where that's at. And, like I said, it's just been a blessing to all of us to work with the kids we have. And for 20 years, we've got to meet, just some incredible young people, from all over the country. And we get to see them grow and see them go through, their changes and grow up and have kids of their own. And I feel older and older. All these grays are from, my own kids and kids I've worked with, but I've gotten them honestly. So, just feel very fortunate to have these experiences.
Well, great. That's awesome to hear.
Absolutely.
It's really, I feel like it's really inspiring to us to hear, because you were talking about those early stages where you really didn't know what you were doing. And I feel like that's us right now. We just know we're trying to build something and trying to have some community impact, but, just in those early stages, but we're having fun doing it. So, it's cool to have something to look to, like the Matt Light Foundation.
Yeah, absolutely.
No doubt.
And just investing in the community, in the youth, is always important. And it's evident throughout, the history of your career and the Light Foundation that's been a focus of yours. And that's awesome.
It is awesome.
Well, like I said, and I've had, some of the best mentors and coaches and, family members and people that pushed me along the way. And, look, you don't know what you don't know until you need to know in some cases, or somebody shows you the way. And, small town communities, there's a richness in places like Greenville and Darke County that kind of go unnoticed when you're there and you're living it in real time. And, you'll hear people say it, here and there that, they didn't know what they had until it was gone, or they didn't know what they had until they didn't have it anymore. And I think that happens to a lot of people growing up in small towns. You maybe look at other situations and say, man, if I only had that, or if I would have grown up in this area, or, I would have had, whatever it may be. But the reality is, it doesn't matter where you're from, doesn't matter, what your home situation is. If you've got the drive and the determination, and if you've got a few people in your corner, look at the amazing stories of people. I grew up in a very solid, home. I had my parents, I had my family members, I had my friends. There are kids that grow up in unbelievably difficult, circumstances, and they go on to do amazing things, right? And so I think sometimes it's nice to just recognize, the things that you have when you have them in real time, and take the time to sit and think of those things, because at some point they won't be there as much, and you want to be able to say that those things that you look back on that you're proud of, and you took advantage of them, and you did everything you could in the moment. And I think if you're doing those kind of things, that no matter what you do, you'll be having fun and trying new things and pushing yourself and creating, and that's a good thing.
Yeah. I read, just kind of in doing some prep for this, I read about a story with you helping a 17-year-old kid named Luis. I think it was in the around Massachusetts area. Correct me if I'm wrong. But how frequently do you see situations like the one with Luis? Being a former gang member as a kid, and kind of mentoring him and helping him get to a situation where he can succeed in the future.
We see it. I think there's parts of this world, and most people don't think of Massachusetts as having a gang presence or an issue with gangs, but you'd be surprised. Go to Dayton, Ohio, just down the road from Greenville, right? And you've got a lot happening in a community that has seen a lot of ups and downs, and that's what is unfortunately the case all across this country, in different pockets, and in some places it's worse than others. But in Massachusetts, they have pockets of problem areas, and this young man, he had gotten caught up in it. His family had been caught up in it in the past. He had an older brother, and he was going down that road. And we have a 4-year program that we asked these young men to commit to, and it was probably going into his third year. I noticed that when he was in camp and he was in town, that he was kind of going out of his way to create some issues, and we kind of butted heads that summer. And when he went home, things just spiraled. And you know what it's like. You go somewhere and you have this awesome experience, but then you go home to the reality of your life. And the reality for him was he had a lot of people in his friend circle and in his core group that weren't living life the right way, and they were doing a lot of things that put him in danger and put them in danger, and that was a tough process. And I think that I've become softened to those kind of moments where growing up the way I did, again in the comfort of a very stable home in a small community. I always looked at it and said, hey, look, you make that decision. You want to go join a gang and do everything that entails, and live for just you, and make the kind of decisions that they make. Well, that's all on you. Well, the reality is a little bit different, and I don't take away the accountability side. We're all accountable for the things that we do. End of story. Period. But showing a little bit of compassion and understanding that the pressures that are on so many young people that are in those situations, it taught me a lot. And to see him go through what he had to go through, and to come out on the other end, with a different perspective, because he had people in his corner, that was a life experience for both of us.
Yeah, it is. Like you said, kind of the concept of gangs and all of that is misunderstood usually. So kids like that need help, that's really it. They need help. They need someone to kind of point them in the right direction and help them. And I think that's great. That's kind of what you were there for, and what you are there for in other kids as well. And just having something to lean on, like a summer camp like that, I'm sure is a great feeling for those kids as well.
Yeah, it's been amazing over the years. I have one of the young men that graduated from our program almost 11, 12 years ago now. He's now married. He actually is in the Air Force, and he's at a base in Western Mass now. He got transferred over, and he's now helping my son, learn, how to be a mechanic, how to, take apart a car. And, when he was in our camp, he was one of the kids that I thought, man, one of these days, I'm not sure, I may have to thump this kid, like he pushed it to the nth degree, and he reminded me a lot of myself, to be quite honest with you, and he was hard charging and didn't have a lot of patience. And, but when he graduated, it was a special moment because, again, he made a 4-year commitment and he saw it all the way to the end. And that's not the norm today. It's easy to walk away from anything, a marriage, a job, when things get difficult, a team or a club or school in general, right? And to be quite honest with you, people aren't held accountable like they used to be. And shoot, when's the last time you heard a kid fail, to move on from 7th to 8th grade or any grade? Everybody gets past, and it's kind of a shame, because failure teaches you a lot of great lessons. And, so it's just been amazing to see the growth of, not just what we do as a foundation, but really the growth of the kids that we've been fortunate to be around and to serve, and to have them come back and now be counselors and want to give back to the kids that are doing the same program that they did, back in the day. So, I feel great about that. It's awesome to see. And it's, it's a big reason, that we do the things that we do.
Sure. So first, Simi and Des, do you have anything that you guys specifically would like to ask?
No, I don't think so. Every time we talk, like my mind comes on questions and then they go away. But I guess I did want to ask this. So like you saying that you were never really a football fan prior to you playing in it, you feel like after having gone through your career in the NFL that you are now, like, do you watch football now, or are you still kind of, push it to the side and just do your thing, or what?
I don't. I have so many interests and so many things that I enjoy doing that I feel like I'm always busy with a project, or, we're working on something for the foundation, or taking down old barns, or I don't know, just hunting, fishing. I mean, it seems like there's a lot that gets in the way of watching football. And I guess on the flip side of that, when I watch a game, I sit there and I say, well, what are they doing? Like, why are they running that? Or why is that blocking scheme? And then it's like, oh yeah, you didn't spend the entire week practicing and game planning. So whatever you're thinking, you're probably 100% wrong on every critique, or, so I look at it differently. I love to work on things that I can actually move the needle on something, or I can have an impact. I'm not a great spectator, and never really have been. So, I mean, but then it gets down to the playoffs, and, when the bullets are flying for real and every single play matters that much more, I definitely get sucked into those moments a little bit. But it's not the same as being on the field.
I can't imagine
by any stretch.
Absolutely.
And I thought that might be your answer. Yeah, that's cool to hear your perspective on that. Thanks.
And I have one thing to say. Whenever the Patriots played the Giants in the Super Bowl, it was kind of tough for me because I'm from Greenville and I want to support you, but I'm a Giants fan.
We all make mistakes. Don't beat yourself up on
that. That was a heck of a rivalry, though, for those couple of years. but yeah.
Oh yeah, that was they were unbelievable games. I mean, the way I looked at it, there's so many moments like that that make up big games where it could have gone either way, or it you know could have worked in your favor or worked against you in this case. But I always felt at that point on both of those games, I'd already been fortunate enough to play in a number of games, and in those games, right, where it mattered the most. And I would look in the locker room on both of those and just look at some of the guys that I shared a locker room with, the Junior Seau's of the world, guys that I just had a ton of respect for, loved being around, were great teammates, but hadn't won one. And I never felt sorry for myself. I mean, hey, you go out there, you win, you lose. It's really about, did you put everything into it? And if you did, then it is what it is. If you didn't, then you have a lot of regret. So outside of that, from a personal side, to me, I just felt terrible for the guys that probably weren't going to get another opportunity and hadn't won one before. And you're watching them throw stuff in their bag and leave that locker room for probably the last time having a chance to win a national championship or a world championship in this case. So those are the things that were bummed about that. But hey, on the flip side, you had another team of guys that realized a heck of a dream and a lot of effort. And so again, I guess that's I think some people probably want to hear like, oh man, I was angry for 5 months. I mean, I was on to Cincinnati before I even left the locker room, as Bill would say. So
did you Bill Belichick is one of the kind of he's very not media. What's the word? He's not very active in the media as well.
Good way to say it.
Yeah. How did you learn anything, particularly in that field, from him, or did you kind of try to avoid being like him in some instances?
No, listen, I mean, I learned a ton from Bill. How to answer a question without actually answering it, how to, make people feel really uncomfortable for extended periods of time. How to just hate practice with every fight. No, just kidding. He's a very complex coach. He's a guy that puts in a ridiculous amount of time and energy to lead in a very disciplined fashion. He's a guy that has historical data on his side. He's done it for so long. He's done it at such a high level since really he was a kid, right? He's a student of the game, but he's also a historian. It's impossible to play for a guy like Bill Belichick and ever call BS, right? Like, there's a lot of players that play their respective sport, and for good reason, they don't fully respect the coaching staff or the head coach because, quite honestly, not every head coach lays it all on the line like they're asking their players to do, or the way that they should be doing it, right? Sometimes you got guys that coast. I was fortunate. I never had that. I had a guy that was going to put in more hours than I was willing to do. I had a guy that understood it at a level that I'll never, quite frankly, understand the game of football. And so, therefore, when he asked me to do something, I did it. Because if you're going to go against it, then that means that you've got the answers that he doesn't. And I knew that wasn't the case. Yeah, right. So, when you play for somebody as strong as Bill in his position as the head coach, as the guy, asking you to do a lot of things that you probably don't feel like doing a lot of days, it makes it easy to get in line, fall in line, and winning doesn't hurt either. But the reason we had an opportunity to win is because we were as prepared as any team could ever be week in and week out.
Yeah, he's one of the, if not one of, he's probably the best football coach of all time. And it was clearly for you also, and a very insightful experience playing for him. But with that, would you ever consider coaching, specifically football?
I don't think I would. I mean, I know what it takes to be that guy, and I know that my passion isn't there for it. I love coaching, specifics, right? Like I love coaching offensive linemen. I love to talk to kids about, certain aspects. I mean, there's certain things that are universal. It doesn't matter what position you play. It's a mindset. It's a mentality. I like to talk, to young people about those kind of things. But to be a head coach or even be a position coach, I mean, you're married to the field. You're married to that team, and for good reason. It takes a lot to accomplish, your ultimate goal, year in and year out. And I know myself, on the way to practice, I may find a really good fishing hole. I may be there all day.
Just might not make it to practice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I wouldn't do that to anybody. So, I don't like to commit to something or to, say I'm going to do something and I'm not the kind of person that wouldn't show up. So, if I was going to take on a role like that, I know I'd be giving up everything else. And I don't think that's something that I would ever find myself being willing to sacrifice.
Yeah. That's one thing it requires is a lot of sacrifice of time and just brain work. So yeah, I just was really out of curiosity, just kind of on the subject of coaching. But to kind of top things off here, what we want to know, what both in football and outside of football, what would be the defining singular moments in your career? Just one instance that you kind of look back on, first in football and then outside of football, that kind of did it for you, that you will always reflect on as, like, I made it or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think in the game of football, maybe if there was again, I don't remember the plays. I never remember any of the football stuff. I can remember every time that I tried to prank, Bill or any of our other coaches or players or things of that nature, which my wife thought I was going to get fired every other week for doing something completely ridiculous. But if I had to pick a moment in football, I think one of the things that comes to mind is, we're in New Orleans. It's that first Super Bowl in 2002. You had 9/11 that happened. You had the country, you had that season. You had the weight of so many things, especially as a rookie. And then at the end of that season, I've got my entire family celebrating, on the field. We did the impossible. We beat the greatest team on turf. It was definitely a surreal moment, and one that, if it was just me and my teammates, it would have been great. But it was my wife, and we were pregnant with our first, who's now a sophomore at Purdue, which is crazy. It tells me how old I am, which is unbelievable. But that was an amazing moment. My parents are there, my friends are there, my aunts, uncle, everybody's there, and I get to share that moment, with them. So, that was an unbelievable moment. And I think off the field, for me, it's just been, I got 4 amazing kids. I've got a wife that puts up with a lot. I've got, more than I've ever deserved. And at the end of the day, I get to meet, some incredible young people through the work we do at the foundation. I'm a blessed dude. I've got I've got no reason to complain ever on any day. So I think that's a good thing to be able to say, and been fortunate.
Absolutely. Sim, Des, do you have anything that you would like to add?
I don't think so, but thanks for taking time out of your night to talk to us.
Yes.
Well, it was good to be on. I knew I would never get a breakfast in Darke County again if I didn't do this. I mean,
that's true.
Man, I know what you grew up with, man.
Yeah.
She is just a man. Like she told me, she said, listen, if you don't do my son's podcast, I will never serve you again. I was like, why are we getting so forceful here? This is unbelievable. I'm just kidding, by the way. For all you people in the world, I'm just kidding.
Shout out to my mom for sure. The Double M Diner. Yep. The breakfast is unbelievable. We used to go there after school every day before basketball games. So yeah, my mom hooked us up. Steve as well, just for, being a middleman as well. We're hoping to actually kind of work with Steve in a different capacity and have an event at Paul's Bingo. So he owns Paul's Bingo.
Right on.
Yeah. So yeah, shout out to them.
Well, and by the way, your mom had me arrested one time too.
Oh, did she?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
How so?
The force is strong in her. Well, it's a cash spot, right? And there's times that you don't have cash on you.
Right.
And I told her I was good for it, and I may or may not have been in a few times after that and failed to settle up on my tab. Until I had, one of Greenville's finest roll up in the old squad car and mention, hey, I think you have a outstanding balance due over there to Double M.
Yeah. We've been kind of getting on her in the last couple of years that she needs to update the system there with the cash only. But we'll see if it ever happens.
There's something charming about
the
a
best
cash
breakfast
only
in Greenville.
Something really charming about it.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
And then of course, can't go wrong with the Shellie's special chocolate cake as well.
Cannot go wrong.
Can't go wrong. That's a fact.
Pairing my mom's chocolate cake with Sue Light's mac and cheese at football team meals was an unstoppable combo.
That's insane.
I'm not sure how you all weren't like $3 bills plus.
Right.
I mean,
yeah. There's some great cooking from the moms in Greenville.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm glad that, with my mom's restaurant that we got to enjoy that specifically a lot, and then just going over to Micah's and whatever may come with that with Sue. But
you guys had a good group.
Yeah. But thank you again for coming on. We'll be in touch. And then if you're around this summer, we can, link up or do whatever. I'm sure you'll be around at the diner and things like that as well.
With cash.
With cash, of course.
Yeah.
And then, just thank you again very much. We're glad we got to talk to you, and yeah.
Well, listen, it's been a lot of fun going down memory lane and catching up with you all, and I wish you luck with your podcast and all the work you're doing, and just stay in it, have some fun with it, as I'm sure you will, and look forward to catching up with you here down the road.
Well,
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you very much, Matt, and you have a great rest of your night.
We appreciate it.
Thank you. You too.
Yep.
Take care.